Hi guys, this is Doug. Welcome back to What's the Hazard? It is Friday, April 29th.
It is.
We are anticipating big storms, and so once we leave this, we need to get your car indoors, man. My car can stay out in the hail. I think yours better get indoors. So, my guest today is,
Stop.
We don't use a lot of these. I don't use a lot of props and stuff. My guest is Mark Hasebroock.
That's right.
We went to high school together, Westside High School, class of 1978.
That's right.
Oh, my God.
The Warriors.
The Warriors, yes,
Rat
we were.
Pack.
And, yeah, that's interesting you say that. I was thinking about the introduction, and I asked you to be here to speak about leadership and entrepreneurism and all of these really interesting topics, but I could not get the Rat Pack off my mind. And the Rat Pack was this notorious group of thugs that used to go to the basketball games, sit in the stands, and harass not only the other team, but our team and everyone else that made the mistake of coming to the game that evening.
Yeah, super mature. We were real mature.
And were you a leader organizer, or would you just consider yourself like just basic?
There were no leaders. Yeah, that's what kind of made it beautiful.
Total anarchy?
Yeah, total anarchy, because every game turned into total anarchy.
It did.
But it was fun.
So, not to get off point, but were you involved in that brouhaha out at Burke High School, that melee that ensued after that basketball game?
There were quite a few of those, unfortunately.
There were, man.
There were.
It was
a strange time.
It was. I mean,
Burke was our big rival back then.
And I know there was some parking lot. I can remember coming out from the locker room after the game.
Yeah.
Must have been a senior, because I think the dream was on the team at that point. And Terry, the bus driver, was fighting with some Burke High School kids over there by our bus that we were supposed to take back to school.
It was not safe.
It was crazy.
Yeah,
man.
it was not safe.
Well, let's get to the point. First of all, it is great to see you.
Thank you.
And we reconnected probably after about 40 years, perhaps.
Yeah.
Were we friends in high school? We were, weren't we?
Did we go to high school together?
I think we did. I saw your picture in this book, and I know my picture's in there somewhere.
Yes, we were friends in high school.
We were. Yeah. And we had a band together. We played in a band together.
A fake band.
It was like Milli Vanilli, but
it was a we lip synced.
They covered
Give Me 3 Steps.
Oh yeah, it was Leonard Skinner,
right?
Absolutely. And I think we did a little Charlie Daniels here.
We
and
did
there.
some Charlie Daniels. We thought we were.
It was
really
great,
good.
man.
Yeah.
Oh, those were such good times.
It was a blast.
And interestingly, when we left Westside, our lives took dissimilar paths. Mm-hmm. I am a conformist. I have always been a round peg in a round hole, or whatever. I do what I'm supposed to do. I've always, get a job, work for 40 years, retire, sell your gold watch, and try to survive, kind of a thing, But you have taken a really interesting path, and I think of you as an entrepreneur. Is that how you consider yourself an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, that's a standard label, absolutely. But I like to build things, and so sometimes I'll just see a problem and try and come up with a solution.
Okay, I love that.
Sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes it does. But I enjoy the challenge of trying to, you'll see something and say, why is nobody solving this thing? This is kind of interesting. Or there's a gap in a market or something. So, maybe we can fill it in some way, shape, or form. So I'm not sure I've even been on a path, because it's been more of lots of zigs and zags and running right into a brick wall and then maybe kind of peeking around and going around it instead of through it. Short answer.
The idea of being a problem solver appeals to me. That's really interesting. That's a nice description of this, because I view myself, again, I am not innovative. I am not, if given problems to solve, then I can work on that. Identifying the problems to solve is not my strength. Mm-hmm. Would you describe your path a little bit and
Sure.
And where you are now, and then maybe we can define some of these terms, entrepreneurism and those kind of things?
You tend to, particularly Nebraskans, don't like to talk about themselves. It's really hard. Most entrepreneurs I meet from the Midwest will defer to the weather.
Right.
It's just kind of like yeah, I started a business, but anyway, God, it's cold today, isn't it? You know, I mean, that type of thing.
Yeah.
And so
is that an IRS concern, or is that just humility?
Humility.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's both good and bad. And on the bad side of that is they don't think big enough and don't, act aggressively enough to try and solve a problem because they realize somebody's always there to knock them down a peg. And so humility is baked into our DNA, I think, because of just who we are as agrarian, as farmers, as what have you in the Midwest. But so it's tough for me to just sit here and remember that movie, Napoleon Dynamite?
Of course.
Yeah. So like Uncle Rico just, I could have been, if Coach would have just put me in.
Yeah.
I could throw that ball over anyway. But yeah, my path is just kind of jagged a little bit. I went to Nebraska for undergrad. And for 3.5 years, I had a lot of fun, and then realized, God, I got to graduate.
This is coming to an end here soon.
Yeah, I went into commercial banking after undergrad at First National Bank here in Omaha. Went through a management training program. Was really interesting. Learned the ins and outs of banking, which is poke your eyes out boring, to be honest with you. I mean, but it was kind of wow, money comes in, we lend it out, we get it back. We do that again. This is it. That's all we do. But it was a great program, great people, and some of my best friends were who I met in that training program.
Yeah.
Then I went into the popcorn business, which is a natural transition, right?
Right.
Banking to popcorn.
Makes sense.
A company called Vic's Corn Popper, and
absolutely,
we had some retail stores. We wholesaled popcorn to grocery stores, and back to that problem solving, I had gone into the grocery stores and realized, there's not much ready to eat popcorn here. There was tons of microwave, but there wasn't a lot of ready to eat. And so, much like you just would tap the grocer on the shoulder and just say, how come there's no ready to eat stuff in here? Because it's too big and bulky and I don't want any. So convincing the grocers that this is something they should carry. And a lot of undergrads that I talk to and some graduate students, they say, well, what really should I learn? How do I apply myself to what I'm learning here? And I say, you got to learn how to sell something. I mean, nothing happens until you sell something. And I didn't know that, but at the time I was learning to sell. And learning to sell to grocers is really difficult.
I'll bet.
And so that was an education in itself. I then sold that and went to a company called McCarthy Capital. This was investment banking, and this is where you helped people sell their business. So they would come to us and say, what's my business worth and who should buy it? And so over the course of working there, I learned a ton about how do you value a business and how do you find the right buyer for it? And then how do you sell that business to that buyer? And so packaging up somebody's life work like your own and just to say, here's the story and here's what it looks like and the value and the this and the that. And then you kind of get in this auction and then you sell it was really interesting because I got to know a lot of founders of businesses and would have conversations like this. Why'd you start this? Tell me what happened. And I loved that, but realized, you know what? I really want to start and own something of my own. Met a guy that had an idea to sell gift certificates online. This would have been the late 90s. And
had that been done? Was that being done at that time?
No, not really. In fact, the solution that we had come up with stemmed from the Oakview Mall. We had been out at Oakview Mall, and this was back in the day where if you wanted a gift certificate to the mall, you would go to the customer service kiosk and stand there.
Right.
And they would say, well, how much? And I said, well, $50. And so the guy would fill out.
Write it up by hand.
A form, give you the certificate, and he keeps the copy. And I remember the two of us kind of going, this is really kind of silly. I mean, what if I wanted a Gap or an Eddie Bauer or a Sears certificate and not one to this mall that I can't use? And so we just thought maybe we should do it online. So giftcertificates.com was a company that we started here in Omaha, and we would buy certificates at a discount. from all sorts of merchants all over the country, and sell them for face value. And so that was the Wild West of the internet.
Was it?
Back then? Nutty times. So we went out to raise money, and this is where the small seed was planted for what I'm doing today, which is Dundee Venture Capital. We went out to raise money and tell the story. Here's what we're doing. There's only a handful of us. We need to raise $500,000. And no one in Omaha cared. It was kind of a lot of pats on the head and
right.
Good luck.
Have fun with your little coupon business.
Yeah, that's cute. But, Warren says not to do stuff like this.
Right.
Like,
yeah, of course.
But, I get it. But, this is what we're doing. We're trying to build this from here to here, and this is where we're going. All we need is this kind of capital. And no one was interested. We went out to the coasts to raise money. We went to Seattle in particular and met with a company out there. And this was both the blessing and curse of raising capital at that period of time. And in the late 90s, it was, you don't need $500,000, you need $5 million. And this guy at Madrona Capital just said, we'll do an entire $5 million investment, but, you guys are going to have to spend it. And that's not in our nature. Mm-hmm. I mean, we don't do that.
What does that mean? What did he mean?
Invest it, market, land grab. We were saying, let's go from 100,000 in sales to 200,000 in sales to 500,000 to $1 million. He was saying, let's go from 100,000 where you guys are today to $1 million next month. Mm-hmm. How do you get there? You have to buy customers. And you hope then that you don't overpay for those customers and they stay and they buy again and again and again. And it was just like Greek to us. We were kind of like, God, this doesn't make sense. I don't know. These guys are smart. Maybe this is what we should do. Mm-hmm. Well, we burned through that. We have to go out and raise more money. And the company's scaling like this. And we had about 100 employees in about 6 months.
Oh, my God.
We go to New York and meet a guy named Bill Ackman. And you should Google Bill Ackman sometime. He was our lead investor along with this group out of Seattle. And it was just lunacy. I mean, they put in tons of money into this business. He's a Wall Street guy. He's of the same school. Like, look, let's not raise 10, let's raise 100. And I'll never forget, I'm walking in Times Square with this guy, and he stops. And he goes, hang on a sec. And he's looking up. And he picks out his phone, his flip phone. And,
right. This is the 90s.
Dials this number, and he talks to this guy for a couple minutes, and he hangs up. And I said, okay, can we keep going? He goes, yeah, sure. And I said, what did you just do? He goes, I just bought that billboard for us. I said, why? And he said, well, I mean, the exposure, it's great. It's Times Square. He spent $150,000 for that month
over the phone
on a billboard for gift certificates. Mm-hmm. This was when you kind of go, okay, I think we're starting to lose our minds. I mean, we had offices in the World Trade Center, in New Jersey, in Seattle, and just this crazy stuff. And
wow.
And so he wanted to go public, and we went through this whole thing about taking the company public, and it was a learning experience.
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
But the bubble burst. And a lot of dot-com businesses in the early 2000s just went away. And our investment banker closed down. Bear Stearns was their name. Doug Nielsen and I, who was my co-founder, we just looked at each other. We were sitting in a bar, and we were supposed to go public on a Monday, and this was Friday. And we get a call, and they said, you know what, we're going to have to postpone this thing. I said, what do you mean postpone? Like, we're not going to do it.
Really?
It's not going to happen.
Oh, my God.
And we just sat there and drank in the bar and just kind of said, well, now what do we do?
After this whirlwind,
raise money.
How much time are we talking? Was this a year has transpired?
About a year and a half. Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. And so he and I worked over the weekend. We wrote this kind of manifesto and presented it to the board. Just said, here's what we got to do. We got to shrink this thing and bring it back to Omaha, close everything. Just, 75 employees, and let's cash flow the business. And they patted us on the head and said, we got it. Thanks. This is a little blip in the market. Don't worry about it. And it was not a blip in the market. And so we kind of looked at each other and said, this isn't going to work.
Wow.
This isn't going to work for us. I mean, maybe for them it is. Let's quit. Mm-hmm. And at the time I had 8 little kids. and no job.
Oh my God, man.
And this thing was just kind of, teetering toward the edge. Doug leaves, his sister Julie, who was also a co-founder with us, leaves, and we were like, let's find something else to do someday. We love working with each other, and I'm a big, big believer in fate.
I am too.
Yeah, because sometimes, fate will knock, and the people that don't take advantage of it miss out on those opportunities. And true story, it's pouring rain. It's February. It's 2002. And the phone is ringing. And for a lot of people that listen to this don't know what landlines are, but
Right.
the phone's ringing, ring, ring, ring. And I'm still at gift certificates. I'm like, God, is anybody going to answer this? Nobody's going to answer.
I don't have any employees any longer. It's just me.
And I've got a box, and I'm just, shoving stuff into it. And I'm like, okay, giftcertificates.com. How may I help you? This guy goes, hey, this is Dave from Yelm, Washington, and I'd love to be an affiliate of gift certificates. And I'm just like, oh, God, this is the last thing I want to do right now. Yeah, Dave, what's going on? What's your business? It's hammocks.com. And it's one of those things like a lightning bolt. Just kind of hits you. And I go, oh, man, that sounds so good. Just to sit in a hammock right now.
That is my dream. This is literally my
God,
dream.
it just sounds so good. And I said, tell me about your business. What? And he goes, well, it's hammocks.com. And I sit there and I pull it up and I look at it, and he goes, we sell hammocks. I mean, not much online. My wife and I go into Mexico and South America. We take our motorcycles down and we buy hammocks, and we bring them up to Washington and we sell them on the corner at craft fairs and stuff. And then we put up this little website, and I'm looking at this site. It's really bad, but I just said, well, Dave, I hate to say this to you, but remember my mindset was like 1 foot out the door. This is a crappy site. He goes, yeah, I know. I don't know what to do with it. He goes, hey, my dream in life is I want to build a drum studio in my basement. I said, well, who doesn't?
Right.
And I said, well, it sounds like you want to sell this thing. Again, so, commercial banking, investment banking, entrepreneur, finding a fate knocking and all this stuff. And he goes, oh, yeah, I'd love to sell this. I just don't know how to do that.
Funny. I do.
Yeah. I said, well, what do you do in revenue? And he's like, $50,000. I said, poof. It's like, oh, well, why don't I buy this thing from you with no money, by the way? He goes, oh, man, I love that. Long story short, I hang up. I called Doug, my co-founder from Gift Certificates. I said, hey, look, I know you're cool in your jets, but I got the next thing we should work on.
That's coming to me.
What is it? I said, it's hammocks.com. I'm in.
I love that.
Yeah, he's one of those too, but he's, in fact, one of the most energetic, best salesperson I've ever met, visionary guy. And the two of us ended up starting this little business. By the way, just because we thought this would be fun, we'll find something else to do with our lives. And we started a little business, and it was hammocks.com. And we sold hammocks online. No vision.
So then what did you do to change what you had purchased to make it viable?
Yeah, it was, we went to, remember Barnes & Noble?
Absolutely.
So Barnes & Noble was our office because we couldn't afford office space. And so we went to Barnes & Noble and hung out there. And there was a sign on the door that 3 customers at a time on the Wi-Fi.
Right.
And it wasn't really Wi-Fi. You had to plug in.
Oh, yeah.
And this manager kept coming around like, guys, I mean,
you've been here for hours.
There's 2 of you. That leaves 1.
2 of my Ethernet plugs, damn it.
Nevertheless, we learned, all about, how do we change this and make the site better? And going up and down the aisles at Barnes & Noble, just like HTML for dummies and all this. And changed the site, took it down, put up the new site. It was a lot more fun. As you can imagine, our sense of humor, just, smart ass, everything just kind of, and just the tagline was accomplish nothing.
I love that. That's actually my business tagline. Nothing.
Accomplish nothing. So it was fun, and we realized that there were people like us out there that were probably looking for a hammock. And this was right when Google was starting with AdSense. You could actually buy an ad and be number one in the world. Somebody types in hammocks, boom, there you are. So we realized this might be something worthwhile. All of a sudden, day one, we had like 5 sales. The next day we had 10, and they were from all over the country, and then 20, and then 50. And then one day, a guy calls and flip phone again. Hello, hammocks.com. He goes, hey, I got my hammock. It's great. Thanks. I got a question for you. Do you guys sell porch swings? And again, Doug's sitting over here, and I reach across and I kick him. I go, look up. He goes, it's available, porchswings.com.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we do.
I said, absolutely. We sell porch swings. By the way, and I'm looking at manufacturers of porch swings. What size of porch swing would you want if you were to buy a porch swing? And the guy goes, I don't know. What size do they come in? And I'm just scrambling. 7 feet, 6 feet, 6 feet. He goes, yeah, 6 feet, fine. And I said, what would you want that made out of? He goes, I don't know, a wood. Hey, are you guys in this business or not? Right. Anyway, I sell this guy a porch swing. We now are in hammocks.com and porchswings.com. And Doug and I literally that day drive around the Regency neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking in backyards. And he's got this yellow pad. Oh, my God, bird baths. Wind chimes, Adirondack chairs. And we went and bought all those domains. And then we talked to all the manufacturers. And we were in that business. So that's how it started to change. And data mining was not a word anybody knew back then, but what we were doing was gathering information about our customers. Wow, Doug Fletcher bought a hammock August 27th. He lives in Omaha. I wonder if he'd be interested in a bird bath and or Adirondack chairs or patio umbrellas, since he's obviously buying something for the backyard. So we would email you and just say, hey, here's something else. Oh, my God, yeah, I'm interested in a bird bath. I mean, click through, go to that website and buy. And we just gradually kept adding to that and adding to that. And again, we went around. So now we had a business that was actually doing some revenue. There was maybe 7 or 8 of us at the time, went to those same folks to raise money. And it was just, the whole pie in the face. Like, yeah, hey, didn't I hear about you guys before?
Right. You look familiar.
You look familiar. Now, what are you selling? Hammocks. What?
Uh-huh.
Warren says not to do these things.
Right.
Yeah, yes. Right. So we went again to the coasts.
But your previous success hadn't swayed their opinion at that point?
No, nobody's going to buy anything on the internet, they said. The common refrain was, nobody's going to buy a hammock or a porch swing. They have to go to Nebraska Furniture Mart and sit in it.
Right.
I said, I don't think so. I think they actually will. No. It's just good luck, though.
Yeah, I would buy anything off the internet if it meant I didn't have to go to the Nebraska Furniture Mart.
Exactly. The DMV or the Mart, you just kind of, and a root canal.
Exactly. All three. Yes, exactly.
So, yeah, that's how it just started to grow and scale. We got investors from Silicon Valley and New York. And, this time I think we learned, much like you do, you kind of zig and zag with your life, and you're like, we screwed that up before. Let's not do that again. And we just learned a lesson and really grew the company. Very smart, bright people here in Omaha. We moved 5 times in 6 years. It was nuts. We just were out of space all the time.
And so what did that become? Was that?
So that became a platform called HeyNeedle.com. Yeah. Right. So because we had this website that somebody would buy a hammock and it looked like a NASCAR. They'd come to it and it'd be like, what are all these things? Like porch swings, bird bath. Oh, God, it's confusing. And so then we developed the brand HeyNeedle.com. So we were able to identify somebody buys a hammock in July in California, maybe we should sell them bar stools or pot racks or pool table lights, And so they developed this pattern of who's buying what. And then the loyalty was like, oh, my God, HeyNeedle's got everything. Anything I need for that specific item, I can get, instead of having to go to a Mart or Walmart, for God's sake, and try and find it. Making the experience like I pick you up by the lapels and drop you in a bar stool store. And you're like, wow, there's every bar stool in the world here. And so that was the experience we wanted to have. The other thing was customer service. which, I think you and I have talked about is lagging. And there's very few companies that have great service. But when you run across them, you're like, that was...
Oh, you know it when you see it or experience it. Absolutely.
And so we tried to do that when people would call. 2/3 of our calls, by the way, were always, hey, where's my order?
Right, sure.
But we always took that opportunity to say, hey, I see you ordered, the 7-foot rope hammock. Would you like me to throw in a pillow? I mean, a pillow is something you really got to have.
Yeah.
And, things like that, just to make it a good experience and eliminate that weird internet barrier.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Drink holder. Can you put drink holders on hammocks?
We actually, one of our employees came up with the idea of a hammock swing. And it basically was a metal loop that you stuck in the ground. You lay in your hammock, and there's a rope that went through the metal loop, and you just did this.
Oh, my God.
And the swing, and they
I love that.
And they were like $5, But it was great. That, so it's fun. It's fun. So we sold that. Walmart owns it.
Oh, okay. I did not know that.
It's still a thriving concern, a brand of theirs within Walmart. And I took about when we sold it, I took about 6 weeks and didn't do much, and just realized that's just not in my nature. I specifically remember the time I went out to get the newspaper, and I kind of looked around the neighborhood. There was nobody around, and I'm just standing there. It was quiet. It's like, is this what it's become?
That's what it's going to be.
This is it.
Yeah.
And a couple of my friends had retired already at a pretty young age and had moved to Florida or done some things. And I remember talking to them, and I said, what do you do every day? I said, oh, it's just great. I get up and I go down to the coffee shop with the paper, and here I was holding the paper in my hand like, oh, God.
Waiting for the coffee to brew.
Yeah, and I said, and then what do you do? I said, well, usually go over to the bakery, get some baguettes or something, and then what do you do? What time would this be? Yeah, and then probably play some golf, and my wife and I, we love to bike ride, and we cruise around the neighborhood, and I could just feel my brain like crumbling.
Oh, yeah.
So I said, okay, what problem is it that was inherent in all the stuff I've done? And how do I solve it? And the one thing I kept always hearing was capital, access to capital for startups. And so I started a company called Dundee Venture Capital in 2010, and we basically invest in companies like I had started. That's it. Yeah. Midwest, primarily between the coasts. Yeah.
Is it fantastic? Do you enjoy it?
It's great because selfishly, I get my life force from the founders.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll sit down and talk to a founder, and they'll share their idea, and I see
to relive that a little bit.
Yeah, I see a little bit of myself in them, but I also see, God, this person's smart. How'd you come up with this? And just seeing the energy they have, and then I just kind of, so it gives me energy. And they're all over the place, and it's nonstop. There's never been a better time.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, to start a company.
It sounds fantastic.
It is. It's great.
So, can I ask you a few questions then about? Were you a good student?
No, embarrassingly so.
And I wasn't a particularly good student, but
no, like at Westside, I look at what Westside is today as well. I mean, it's a junior college, and it's the resources available to the students there are amazing.
Did you have kids that went to Westside?
No. We weren't in the district.
Yeah, we were barely in the district.
But no, at Westside I was passable. At college I was passable. And that's a lack of initiative on my own part because the resources are there. It's just applying yourself. And it's like any good founder of a company. It's like, I've got this idea. And so, well, who's going to execute on it? And the ones that don't execute, which was me in school, miss out on, I think, a big opportunity. Yeah.
But you made a comment initially that resonates with me. You went into the grocery store and you saw that there was no ready-to-eat popcorn available, and so this is a gap. This is a problem.
Yeah.
I would just whine and leave without popcorn, and that's the difference. And I think that summarizes the difference between an entrepreneur and just a small business owner. I don't do anything innovative. I just deliver. I fill a need that someone might have, but I'm not innovative. I've been in business for 8 years, and I'm thinking about hiring an employee. And for the last 5 years, I've been thinking about hiring an employee. I'm not really a risk taker.
You shouldn't belittle that, because you're providing a service that maybe someone else was before. You're doing it in a different way. You're doing
True.
it. You're
Slightly
a
different.
sole proprietor. You're doing it the way you want to do it, versus where a lot of great businesses come from. It's kind of like you. Where'd you work before?
I worked for the federal government for 25 years.
So there you go. They trained you. You learned a lot, and ultimately you said, "I can do better."
Mm-hmm. Well,
Otherwise, you'd still be at the federal government.
That's a true statement. Yes.
So you are an entrepreneur, whether you like it or not, because you broke away and you just said, "I can do this."
But doesn't it require some level of innovation, or, as you said, problem solving? As you said, identifying that gap.
No, I mean, everybody associates entrepreneurship with like technology and startup in your dorm. There's this whole thing of the sweaty startups as well, which I really admire, because it's the ones that just say, "You know what? I'm going to start my own lawn care business. I don't really know what I'm doing, but I'm going to go start it." And then that evolves to snow removal, Christmas lights, landscaping, architectural design, pools and rock patios and fireplaces. And then all of a sudden, 10 years goes by, they turn around and say, "God, I got 50 employees and I'm doing $10 million a year in sales." And that is an entrepreneur the problem they're solving is, what am I doing with my life and my skills? Well, it looks to me like there are 1,000 different people doing safety, but I don't like the way they're doing it. I'm going to do it the way I want to do it. I'm going to provide the service. You're a very hands-on service guy in an industry, my guess is, doesn't have a lot of that.
Probably not. Yeah. Perhaps not. Yeah.
So, I mean, that's the thing with small business owners, is just to say, I just own a small business. I always just stop them and just say, don't say just. You're the backbone. I mean, you're the ones that, you don't go and fill out TPS reports all day. And
I love that movie. There. Oh, that's one of my favorites. The Bobs.
Wait for the Bobs to come in. Have a talk with the Bobs. Yeah,
Yes.
And sometimes the people that break away from that environment are the ones I love to back, because they often sit there all day and kind of go, "This is a problem, whatever it is, XYZ," and they take it to their immediate supervisor and say, "Hey, how come we're not doing this? I got a way to solve it." And it seems to me as though the market wants this. And 9 times out of 10, that person just goes, "Hey, Doug, cool it. All right, your job is this. We got it." No one cares about that. And so another 6 months goes by, and you are sitting there kind of going, I still see this as a problem. My customers are telling me this is a problem. You know what? I'm going to fix it.
And they leave and do it themselves.
Leave, and they go do it themselves, yeah.
That's an interesting comment. And I think that was something that you mentioned when we had coffee a month or two ago, was that within our workforces and the groups that I deal with, primarily manufacturing, construction, there are innovators, there are entrepreneurs out in that workforce that probably have, great ideas for addressing those customer needs or filling that gap, whatever that is. Yep. And we don't have at least in most situations that I deal with, there probably is not a great mechanism for nurturing and harvesting that. The old suggestion card thing probably doesn't really get us where we want to be.
No.
But you don't want to ignore that stuff.
Right.
Because those are the people that are going to leave, become your competition, and then probably outcompete you at some point.
Yeah, and it's always that fear of, someone outshining you. So here's this boss just kind of saying, well, these folks have some ideas, and that's going to make me look bad. And that's just, it works inverse. It's so dumb. It's just so dumb.
So are you a risk taker? Do you consider yourself a risk taker?
Yeah.
You enjoy that? Being on the edge a little bit?
Probably too much.
Or straddling the line, whatever that is?
A little too much, yeah.
Really? Have you had any abject failures that, I mean, I read about guys like that we see in the news all the time, the Bezos and the, you know, Elon and Jobs, and they all talk about having failed, abject failures along the way, and then just getting right back up and trying again. Is that
it's been
common?
It's been little steps and failures along the way that just make you course correct. Mm-hmm. You know, so like within gift certificates, there were a variety of things we did that you kind of look back and go, wow, you know, that was monumentally stupid, you know. So you fall down, sure, but in an environment that encourages that, you don't care. Mm-hmm. In an environment where people go, ooh, wow, you really failed, didn't you? You know, you'll never do it again. Mm-hmm. You'll never do it again.
Right.
I mean, an early thing that I failed at was selling moccasins. Mm-hmm. Never tell you that story. This is
no,
like Uncle
I
Rico
love moccasins.
Part 2.
No, let's hear it.
I wanted to, in college, go to Padre Island for spring break.
Who didn't?
That was my my goal. And my fraternity brothers, there was 4 of us, all wanted, you know, we had a car, but we didn't have means to get there. And my roommate, Jim Keneally from Gordon, Nebraska. Mm-hmm. Gordon is right next to reservation, and he came back. Do you call it that? Am I going to get in trouble?
No, that's the homeland or the
Native American?
The res. Yeah, man, that's
got
cool.
it. So he comes back one time from a break, and he's wearing these just obnoxiously colored moccasins, yellow moccasins. Right. And I was like, where did you get those? Those are awesome. And,
of course you did.
Yeah, and he goes, oh, well, out at the res, you know, they make them out there, and we get them all the time. And I
think they like chew the leather, and you know.
They were well done, little beads on them and everything. And so I said, well, what does a pair of those cost? And he goes, oh, they sell them for like $20. And I said, well, but what would it cost like if I bought a bunch of them? And he goes, I don't know. Well, I'll call the guy and see. And so it turns out we could buy them for like $7 and we could sell them for $20. And I said, why don't we go to the sororities and just door to door and sell moccasins to the girls in the sororities? Let's do it. We started a company. We called it Board Feet. Get it?
I do get it.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, and so we went to the sororities up and down at the University of Nebraska, and we sold moccasins to them.
Wow.
And first of all, you go in and you'd get all the girls together, and it was a great way to meet girls.
Of course it was.
And you'd try it on, and you'd size their foot. And that's surprising. You know, she'd say, normally I'm like a 4, and it's like showing she's a 12. Right. I said, well, this is a big foot. But anyway, so we would take all these measurements and orders and get paid, and we bought the moccasins, got them in, delivered them, and we're like, that's our trip. We're going to be rich. And
absolutely,
we had this money. We go to Padre Island, had a great time. We drive back and to the Sigma Chi house, pull in the driveway, and there's 3 or 4 girls sitting outside, and they're holding their moccasins.
Uh-oh.
And I'm like, Jim, they want more. They love us. And we're like, the heroes have returned.
They want more.
How many do you want? And this one girl walks up. She goes, look at my feet. And her feet had been stained by the...
They were bright yellow.
Yeah, bright yellow. And other ones were blue. And other ones were purple.
Oh, of course they were.
I was like, dang. And we call the guy out at the reservation. We said, what? He goes, well, did they wear them outside? Well, yeah, they wore them outside. Oh, my God, they're not supposed to wear them outside.
Those are indoor moccasins.
Those are indoor moccasins. Oh, my God. We had to refund all
the money.
God. With, you know, naturally we spent everything.
Yeah.
But here was the lesson.
You had brought back some souvenirs perhaps you could barter with.
The tough lesson was, okay, you know, first of all, know your supplier and know the product, you know, in and out. And then also treat your customer like you want to be treated. Like, okay, we could have just said, hey, tough luck. Sorry, your feet are purple.
Right.
We'll make it right. Do you want another pair or do you want money? We'll figure out a way to make it good. But that feeling of like, oh, God, you know, we were just such heroes to then like, this was a complete failure. and then shutting it
Oh
down
man, but so this has been in you
for a long time.
for a long time.
Yeah.
This spirit or whatever that is.
Yeah, I think so.
I think that's fantastic, man.
Just unleash it. So.
Because I've never had that, and I've always envied it. I've always envied people that were risk takers. I'm not a risk taker. That were innovative. I'm not innovative. I'm none of those things. Now, you know, it's worked, and my family lives indoors and those kind of things, you know, but
You have plumbing.
We have plumbing, yeah. On our level. I mean, not where my boys stay.
No, but at least one level.
Exactly, one of the levels. So you made a comment about going back to the Sigma Chi house.
Mm-hmm.
Was that your house?
Yeah.
You're a Sigma Chi?
Yeah.
I'm a Sigma Chi.
Oh, you're not.
Yes, I am.
We have to do the secret.
Can we do the handshake?
No, we can't. Not
Afterwards, not on camera. We can't do it on camera.
that.
Yeah, I'm a Sigma Chi too.
From
Delta Omega, University of Tulsa.
Oh God, that's great.
Yeah, man. I did not know
awesome.
this. Oh, turn the camera off.
Camera off.
We have
Yeah.
to do the secret embrace or whatever it is. The handshake. That's what it is. Yeah, man. That's awesome.
That's really cool.
Yeah, and interestingly, there were innovators, there were entrepreneurs in my undergraduate class. These guys that, and I don't mean this to be over generalization, but they typically weren't great students. They weren't the students that were going to go work for you and bang out results. They were just their minds were elsewhere. Maybe I'm not sure that they were preoccupied necessarily, but they were always thinking differently.
Right. Yeah.
And most formal education is just a very specific, you know, this is the box, squeeze yourself into the box type of thing.
Yeah.
I have a son like that who never fit into the box, and a very bright young man, and but it just didn't work for him. I was just forced into the box and went along with it.
Yeah. Well, you found what you're good at.
Yeah, I guess.
Not many people do.
I suppose.
Not many people do. They go through life and then they have regrets.
Yeah.
And that's sad.
I suppose that's true, man. And I do enjoy what I'm doing now. It's very fulfilling, much more so than when I was in the box.
Yeah.
You know? So I will
Freedom.
I will step over the line periodically, but it makes me very uncomfortable, so I immediately jump back into the box.
It's freedom. It's your ability to decide. And I look back at education and you know, we talked about the things we didn't take advantage of, but also the ones that color outside the lines that get in trouble. And I just think there's got to be a way to encourage that, because those are the ones at a young age that develop that spirit to be the ones that make the next iPhone or go to Mars.
Without question.
That, you know, the teacher says, hey, Doug, this is the assignment today.
Right.
Yeah, but, you know, I'm thinking about it a little differently here. How many people get squashed? And also, it starts at home, too.
That's a great comment.
It really does. And we look to the educational institutions to say, you got to change this. Things got to change. A lot of this happens at home. And, you know, I'll talk to some undergrad or grad students and, you know, just say, show of hands, who thinks they might want to start or own their own business someday? And it's not many.
Really?
Yeah. It's and I just pick somebody. How come? I mean, what would? Well, I just don't want to do that. You know, I'm going to work
Sounds scary, or
I'm going to go to Mutual.
Yeah.
Yeah, and nothing wrong with them. Wonderful company.
Course.
It's just like, but gee, before class, you seem to have some really interesting ideas. You know, so from the parents saying, love it, be creative, but look, go get a job for God's sake, and get dental and get 2 weeks vacation.
Exactly.
All right?
Right.
Because that's what I did. That type of thing. Somehow that loop has to be broken, and it needs to start at a real young age. We got to teach these kids in grade school, just go build a birdhouse and go sell it to somebody. You know, that type of thing.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I completely agree with that. I was programmed to work hard, get a job, and do the 40-year thing. That's what my father had done, and that's what I saw. I'm sure that environmental influence has a lot to do with it. You know, your willingness to take risks or whatever, I suppose, perhaps. You know?
It's just baking into people's nature. Little kids, you know, to ask them, you know, you probably did with your parents. Why? And your parents, just because I said so.
Right.
All right. But that somehow gets beat out of people that, you know, some of the greatest businesses are just because you keep asking why. And then it leads to what if, you know? So why is that? there, you know.
And you see you see signs of it. You were describing fate, how these kind of things, the universe is speaking to us all the time. It seems like if you're listening.
If you're listening, yeah.
If we're paying attention as parents, my older son, Kent, and my younger son, Nick, two dramatically different young men, both good. I'm very proud of both of them. But Kent was always the one who school wasn't a particularly great fit for him, or at least the way school was administered didn't work with him well. He had a little business making skim boards for a while. You know, skim boards you take out, you throw them into the water. There was a creek that ran behind our house, and he and his buddies would make these skim boards and then go basically skimboarding in the creek, run through the, and then he started making them and selling them to his buddies and stuff. And I was, of course, like, knock that shit off and get back and do your homework,
Get to work.
Exactly.
Do a real job.
Yeah.
Quit screwing around.
That's great, but you need a backup plan because that's going to fail, and you need to have a real,
Well,
I didn't recognize it. I didn't,
When your back's against the wall is when you really, have to make things work.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's so many people with ideas, very few that can execute on them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the execution piece. I mean, there's zillions of ideas, but it's proving that the market cares about something.
That's an interesting comment.
And oftentimes it'll be like, God, I'm going to make a new Propel water. So well, does the market really? I mean, how do you know the market cares? Maybe they do. I'm not downplaying it. So go test it.
That?
Just create something and go test it.
Okay.
And start with 10 people and talk to them.
Interesting.
And like, oh yeah, well, what would you pay for it? Do you want me to ship it to your house, or should it be something you pick up, or do you want a subscription, or, and then talk to 10 more and talk to 10 more. And, after a while you talk to 100 people and you kind of go, this isn't going to work. Okay.
So I heard Steve Jobs one time say, focus requires saying no. And he was talking about in his world, in that he's the Apple guy, I think, right? I mean, this is
yes, Apple.
You've heard of that?
Yes.
Yeah. I didn't invest in it. I didn't think it was going to work. But, he was talking to this group of engineers and developers, and they all have great ideas. As you said, there's 1,000 great ideas out there, all of these bright, young engineers. On a microscopic level, those are all great ideas. On a macroscopic level, most of them suck. Yeah. Most of them aren't going to work. Right. And I have to be able to say, no, I'm sorry if it hurts your feelings or whatever, but we have to think macroscopically, like you just described. Is this going to be popular within the marketplace?
Yeah, does anybody care?
Yeah, does anybody care? That's
one of my boys works at Google, and they say take 20% of their time to work on moonshot ideas. And, is it mandatory? No. Does everybody take advantage of that? Pretty much. And Gmail was created by one of their employees out of this whole concept, So Gmail today is, pretty much everything everyone uses. But it was one of those things like, wait a sec, how come we don't have a platform we have this internal great communication tool. Why isn't this available to the world? Well, because this is our communication tool. Well, let's make it open source and give it to everybody. And there was silence, just kind of like, that's a damn good idea. How do we execute on it? How do we make it? So it's things like that a company, if they actually did that, they'd get 1,000 ideas a year, of which 10 of them might be real game changers. And
which is a good number. Which
is a huge number. But what it does is it fosters creativity. It allows that company and the employees that contribute to that company to feel like, you know what, I'm part of the solution here. I'm not just filling out TPS reports, like I said. I'm here, and they value my opinion.
I love that.
And that's stuff that big companies can do it. They don't. They can.
So you could go out into a manufacturing environment or any workplace, a construction environment, and just ask, what's the question you're asking? How do we do this better? Is that the question that you ask them?
Yeah, if it's a magic wand, and just like if you had a magic wand, how would this improve? What would you do tomorrow? Money is no object,
right?
And no one's going to yell at you. You're not going to get in trouble. But what would you do different? And sometimes it's little things. It's like, well, how come the towels are over here? I got to walk 17 steps to go get these towels. And everybody kind of looks at, well, I don't know. We've always done it that way. Well, move the towels over here. I mean, or I noticed that there's, every time that this widget comes through, Paul's got to reach down and do this. And you kind of go, oh my God, I didn't know we were doing that.
Right.
Well, how would you fix it? Well, I mean, there'd be a little barrier here and a little thing that comes through and nobody's arm can go in there. My God, why didn't we think of that?
That's wonderful. I think that's incredible and certainly underutilized.
Yeah.
I mean, most of the places that I go to, they're just trying to get through the day,
Right.
With all their fingers and toes intact probably, or just get a few widgets out the door without having to redo all of them. And so they lose all of that
Yep.
useful information. They're not asking for it. And probably people aren't volunteering it unless they're being asked.
Right.
Unless you're really comfortable and outgoing people, most of them are just like, well, I'm not going to say anything.
No one cares. No one listens to me anyway.
Right.
I'm the takeoff guy. Product comes here, I take it off, and I put it over there. That's my job.
Right.
And, but sometimes when you talk to those folks and just say, look, I know you're the takeoff guy and you've been there for 7 years, but how would you change this? What do you want to do differently? Is there a way to speed it up or slow it down or make it better or more efficient? And oftentimes you get some really interesting ideas.
I'll bet.
Yeah.
Did you go into any of the manufacturing facilities of these products that you were marketing and selling, and you got to had a chance to see them made
I
at
set up
times?
the popcorn manufacturing. Yeah, we set up a warehouse over off I Street and a whole flow through process, and had no idea how to do it. And so met with a couple of manufacturers who came and said, well, you start here, and the popcorn gets popped, and then it goes into here, and it gets sprayed with the oil, and then it gets coated with cheese, and then it cools, and it goes through this tumbler and goes into a bag. Sounds simple, right? It wasn't.
Right.
And so just learning that whole thing. And then where I learned this about asking people is just the folks I hired. It's like, hey, I drew them all together one day and said, as you can tell, I don't know what I'm doing.
Right.
But what we got to do as a team is figure this out, and I'm not going to lay anybody off just because we have improved processes. What we're going to do is just make more and do more with this team here. But man, we got to figure this out. I mean, we had popcorn all over the floor and bags were flying up in the air, and just I said, this is a safety hazard.
There you go. Thank you. And cut.
Commercial.
That's it. Exactly.
Yeah. And nobody knew what they were doing. It was,
man. And I mean, and I think you can solicit, input on how do we do things more safely. But if you're doing the process more efficiently, safety just works into that. And so, that's my safety piece for the. So in the new gig, Dundee, how do you find businesses that are interesting to you? Do they come to you, or are you out there beating the bushes?
No, I'd say about a third of it now is us just turning over rocks. Like today, I've got a partner in Boulder and one in Austin, one in Minneapolis, and in Chicago. And they're just, they'll hear of something, a friend of a friend, somebody will call them and just say, you got to talk to this company. These two people are starting a really cool business. 2/3 of our deal flow comes from other bigger investment funds.
Okay.
So it's too small or too early or too what have you for them, but they say, let's show it to Dundee because those folks will bring it along. And, we're like, one guy said, you're like AAA baseball for, a startup.
Absolutely.
Kind of shape it. Make
Nothing more fun than AAA baseball. Truthfully,
Bring them along, make them better, and then
$2 beer night is AAA baseball. They don't do that in the big leagues.
No, they don't. Or the bats.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm with you completely. Yeah. I love that niche. I love that niche.
Yeah, that's what we do. So it's we're some of the first money in because we are all operators in some capacity. Founders identify with us, so we can sit down and say, here's the stuff that's important that you kind of want to watch. Starting now, the first 6 months are pretty critical. And a lot of founders, what you love about them is what you hate about them You know, they're just up and down. But oftentimes they're like your kids. You know?
I'll bet they are. Yeah,
they're running towards the coffee table, and it's like, this is not going to end well.
Right.
Sometimes you grab him by the collar, and other times you're like, he's going to run in the coffee table.
He needs to hit the coffee table.
And so you try and just kind of bob and weave and you get them on that trajectory. Some of them go into a ditch in flames with no skid marks, and others just really thrive and do well.
That's cool.
And which is very rewarding. The discipline to say no, back to your point about that, is also something that's been tough for me to learn. Because early on when we were doing this, it's like, God, this company's struggling. I'm going to get in there and fix it, you know. And anymore, it's like, you know what? It's just the market doesn't care.
Interesting.
Let's move on.
May not be fixable, or it might not be worth your time. But you are coaching these people along because they, like you in the beginning, have no idea what they're doing. Oftentimes, they've got a great idea, or at least they have a passion about an idea.
Right. And most of them do. And they know it's going to work. And the best founding teams, it's either have a sales and a technical founder. So there's someone who can.
They've got that people person, and they've got the brains.
Exactly.
I don't mean they're mutually exclusive.
No, but it's like the one who can take the product and go sell it. And frequently, you'll have the hi sharks. I'm raising $10,000 for my, but it's like, well, who's going to sell this?
Right.
You know, and there's nobody who can do it.
Interestingly, do you enjoy that show? Have you ever watched that show?
Yeah. So,
do you know any of those folks?
Actually, we had a company, eCreamery is a company that I invested in, and eCreamery was on Shark Tank. So it was quite an experience. Yeah.
That's very cool.
Yeah. It was great.
But no, you didn't go pitch.
No.
This was the start. The founders.
The two founders did, and they did great.
Did they?
What I didn't realize is that, oftentimes they say, can we go make a call? So they have to dial up that person and this was Becky and Abby, who were the two co-founders, went in to pitch. I was the one they were going to call. And so you have to be on the phone with them. And they were in there for almost 3 hours. And so I'm just on hold.
Just waiting.
And occasionally the producer would come on and go, are you still there?
Right.
So I'm here. What's going on? I can't tell you. You know?
So you couldn't hear the interaction with
nothing at all. And so in the event that they would say, "Oh, we have to call," and they fake a phone call, I'm already there. So no, we didn't get a deal. We had Mr. Wonderful was in for half, and no one else wanted to come in on the other half, which I think was a blessing. But what a wild show! Yeah.
I love it. I actually enjoy the show.
Yeah,
I find it interesting. Some of them are dicks. I kind of,
I sit there and go, why would you ask that? Just don't be so insulting, you know. But you have to realize they're taking oftentimes it's anywhere from a half hour to 2-3 hours, and boiling it down to what would you say? It's 6 minutes
per pitch, perhaps.
So, and then they'll pick those pieces out, and we fortunately got them early because we were sampling ice cream, and so they have to go in, you set all this stuff up, and my God, the lights and everything. And we were thinking, oh my God, it's going to be soup.
We need to be first.
Yeah. And, but I guess from what I heard from other contestants that you get them late in the day, they're pretty surly. And you can imagine.
Yeah.
You do 8 or 10 of those and it's 5 o'clock and you're like,
you're tired, your ass hurts. And
belt buckle, beer bottle opener. You're like, serious?
I have one of those. I may have the only one, but I do have. Or at the bottom of the flip flops, there's the opener on the bottom of the flip flops. Did you guys carry that?
Who doesn't need one of those, right? Yeah.
As you mentioned, which is really sage advice. Well, is the market going to embrace it?
Yeah. Does the market care? Does the market care?
Does anybody care?
And like right now, I see a lot of founders that no one cares about inflation. No one cares about, frankly, politics. None of that comes into the conversation. It's like, is this a good idea or a bad idea? And that other stuff will sort itself out.
I think it sounds fantastic, man.
Yeah, it's good. It's fun.
I was going to say I envy you. What I really envy is that you don't look my age, dick. So I don't know how that works. maybe you have to have sleepless nights. Do you sleep? I mean, do you worry like you used to when you were the man?
No. Although, I've got investors now, and I feel like I am so beholden to them.
Of course.
To not only return the capital, but return a ton of capital to them. Okay, so that concern is there. But I think the team that I have in place is A+. The deal flow that we have is A+. And I'm very confident that over time it's going to work out very well. But as an operator of a company where, at one time we had 450 employees at Hayneedle, and there's a worry there. Like, God, this could go up in flames tomorrow. My God. And there's a lot of people that you're beholden to.
Right. So as you walk in the morning, hello, Mr. Hasebroock. Hello, Mr. Hasebroock. And you're just head down, going to your office. Grumph.
Yeah. And there was a time I actually noticed that people were fake laughing at my jokes. And I was like, this isn't fun anymore.
Yeah. No, I'm with you, man.
Like you'd say something.
It's gotten too big, perhaps, or it's just.
And they know that I'm the founder or something, and they're like, that wasn't even funny.
Right.
Or there was a time I walked in and we actually had a receptionist when you needed one of those, and she didn't know who I was. Morning, sir.
Called security on you.
May I help you? I said, no, I'm good.
Yeah. Go into my office.
Sir, you can't go back there. Actually, I can. I'm Mark. So it's like maybe it's time.
Maybe it's too big.
Well, it's too big. I wasn't having an impact. Like in the early days, you just make a decision in the hallway, and I said, "Let's try it."
Yeah.
I don't know. It might work, might not. And
it's a fantastic story, man.
It's fun. I don't know. I mean, you tend to think your story's interesting, but
I find it fascinating.
A lot of your listeners are like,
no. I think they're all finding it fascinating, truthfully, and I think just the idea that those innovations exist out in the facility, in the plant.
They do.
They're there somewhere. Not everyone is that guy, but that guy or gal, but they're out there. And I think if we tapped into it a little bit more intentionally.
And like when you're out there just and doing what you do, I'll bet you'll be energized by just asking some of those line workers just that one question. Why do you do this like this? See what they say.
And that's exactly what we do. And I can tell you from my experience, and it's obvious, I love to talk. I love to engage with these employees. I was out in a steel mill a couple days ago. I'm out on the heat deck where they're actually melting this stuff before they pour it. And they pour it basically by hand from a ladle into these molds. You know, I mean, it's hard work.
Wow.
But if you ask them to talk about their work, almost always they talk about it with some level of enthusiasm and pride and, oh, here's what we do. And then you just step out of the way and let them tell their story. It is fascinating.
Yeah.
I truly love that part of it. And then I just ask them that question, well, you know, this kind of scares me a little bit. Does this scare you, or what could we do differently? And just let them solve the problems.
Oftentimes they are the ones that will solve it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know? And it's like the suits show up and everybody in the factory goes, oh God,
that's right.
Here we go.
Shuts up.
This, you know, like I see that plug over there on the wall. I'm like, why is that plug up there 11 feet?
Is this how you exist?
Yeah.
Are you always asking
always.
why?
I'm like, why are those two things there? They must do something, and why is it that pattern? You know, so.
And most of us just walk by that.
Yeah.
And just assume there's a reason for it.
And that can clog your brain up with stuff too.
But I think that's cool. Always asking why, trying to fill those voids, solve problems. Most people don't do that. Most people are just content just to drift through.
Just why don't you fix it?
You know,
just fix it.
Take it on faith.
But it's great. Cool. I mean, I try and tell my kids that. Just, you know, we have a saying. It's just FIO, figure it out. You know, and it's always like, Dad, the rent's due on this apartment, and we'll figure it out.
Right.
I mean, why is that my responsibility? But half the time, it's the solution is there. You want to help them as a parent. You want to help them. You're like, well, let me help. I can do it. But the best thing you can do for them is just like, you figure it out. It's best to stumble on little things like this, and
I agree.
And then the muscle memory builds a little bit,
and a little bit of resilience, and a little bit of
pride.
You know, you get a little callous. You know, you don't take it quite so personally when all of those little things happen.
Yeah, just in pride in what you do. And I can't tell you, Doug, how many people I'll sit like this with, and without the microphones and cameras, of course, but just a guy's our age and just kind of say, I don't know what I want to do for the rest of my life. And just say, well, what do you want me to do? You want me to figure it out?
Right. Right.
So
FIO.
yeah, figure it out yourself.
Yeah.
So you just say, magic wand, what would you do tomorrow morning? Well, I don't know. Come on. You don't have any passions. You don't have any interests whatsoever.
That's really
That's sad.
That's a sad statement. Yeah.
The ones that are fun are like, well, I got to tell you, I love, don't tell anybody, to sculpt. Say, well, hold on. Let's do something with that. Where would you go with that? Hobby, business, own, display, and go down that rabbit hole and help them figure it out. But the ones that just go, I don't know, I'm just not sure. Say, well, that's sad. Don't get to that point. I just tell my kids that, and founders too. We back a lot of second and third and fourth time founders because no matter what, if they succeeded or failed, I like the ones that failed because they're back
and more determined.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like that too, man.
Yeah.
Awesome. Man, I think our time is up. I have no idea. Oh, our time is way over.
We have no more tape.
Holy shit. Why didn't you say anything?
The tape's gone.
It's fantastic, man. Thank you very much for joining me. Fascinating. And I'm glad that we've reconnected.
Same.
Once the camera's off, I'm going to give you the grip.
The grip.
As we said back in the old days. So
absolutely.
I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
You bet. It's been a pleasure. Have a good weekend. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Check out our sponsors. We appreciate all of our sponsors and their generosity. Let's just do this. So have a good week next week, and we'll be back next Friday. Thanks, Mark.
Cheers.